Hey, what's up? Hello. Welcome to Sammy and Creepy. My name is Sammy, and this is where I like to tell you about something creepy. I thought it would be fun today since you guys have enjoyed stories. I thought it would be fun to read you guys the stories that have been submitted to me, paranormal and creepy stories from my followers on TikTok. Because if you don't follow me on TikTok, then you don't know that I have people submit me creepy stories for me to then retell on TikTok, and you can either remain anonymous or be tagged. It's totally up to the person, but I've received quite a few really interesting ones this far, so I thought that I would just do a video reading a few of them to you so that you could just listen and, do whatever you do when you listen to creepy stories. Okay? If you ever want to submit me any creepy stories that you have, I have a email. It's sparanormal@yahoo.com that you can email me, and I think I'm eventually going to start having people submit them on my Reddit. So yeah, once I get that figured out, we'll do it there. But for now, you can email it to me if you have any creepy paranormal experiences. Okay, so we'll start in my email, and then we'll move over to my DMs, my TikTok DMs. So this first one is about Randonautica. Hey, one of your TikToks popped up on my For You page about some girls randonauting. I read some comments and seen that we could share our scary stories with you. I absolutely love spooky and creepy stuff, so in 2021, when it was super popular, me, my old roommate, and my ex-fiance downloaded Randonautica and thought to try it. The first time we did it, we set the intention for scary. We decided to walk because my ex-fiance had been drinking, I don't drive, and my roommate didn't have her license. The location was a few blocks away from our house in a very well-known area, and on we went. It was a huge mansion that we passed by very often when leaving town, and on the second floor there is a huge window and a balcony. It's on lots of land, so you'd have to walk a hot minute to reach the front door. I wasn't comfortable walking onto someone else's property. It was around October at the time, but this house never decorates. We stood on the sidewalk for a good 5 minutes before I decided that we should go back home and thought this was a waste. Until my ex and my roommate turned and started walking away, I looked up one last time, and to my surprise, it looked like a woman wearing a wedding dress standing in the huge window on the second floor. I low-key freaked out and showed the other two. It definitely sent chills down all of our spines. But I was very skeptical and thought maybe the owner saw us standing by the road, staring at their house, and they wanted to creep us out so that we'd leave. So we take off and go home. That was the end of being creeped out, or so I thought. A couple of days later, we decided we wanted to try again. Once again, it was about 10 or 11 p.m. and dark outside. We decided to walk. But this time, we set the intention for run. I thought, let's test it and see if this will actually work. The location was set at the local football stadium. We lived pretty close, just a few blocks away. I knew this area very well because when I was in grades 6 through 10, I would have to perform at this stadium for football games during my marching band season. Not to mention right next to the stadium is the dog park that we took our pit bull to, and the senior citizen building that my grandmother works at. All three of these places were directly in one spot. There was a lot of streetlights, so I convinced myself that nothing could possibly scare me. We took off walking, and immediately I got a bad feeling in my gut. We reached the football stadium. As soon as we start walking through the grass, this black car with tinted windows started driving around the property, very slowly, but slowly following us. Now, I do not play when it comes to my safety. I had a very large pocket tool on me, pepper spray, and a taser. So I reminded my roommate and my ex, if someone approaches us, just stand behind me and get ready to run, because I will use one of these if things go downhill. The black car got extremely close, so we stopped walking and I tilted my head at the car, giving them the "can I help you" gesture. The driver's side window slowly rolls down, and it's a man, and it's very obvious that he's in his late 40s, early 50s. He asks if we need a ride and spends almost 5 minutes trying to convince us to get in his car. So by the 4th minute, I whispered to the other two to start walking away. But don't just walk, speed walk. We start walking pretty fast. We still haven't gotten to the correct point of the location, and something in me said, F this, we need to leave now. And this man is still following us in his car. By this point, we start jogging, and he rolls his window back up. He speeds off and keeps circling. I told the other two, we need to leave, but not leave the same way we came. We need to head to the Pockets gas station where there are other people in case he tries anything. About 2 blocks from the stadium is the highway. Up the road from the highway is the gas station. So we run full force to the highway. Now I thought, we're safe walking along the highway because these cars are driving past. I'm sure someone would stop if we screamed loud enough. That is, until we ran out of breath running down the highway. From this point we can see the gas station, but we're on the right side of the road, and there's a trailer park on the same side. Out of absolutely nowhere, this literal spotlight hits us from the trailer park. The light is so bright that I'm literally blinded. I tell the other two, stop for just 2 seconds. I put my right hand up to cover the spotlight so I can make out a picture of the silhouette blinding us with this light. My heart fell through my ass. It's the same man, parked at a trailer, standing outside of his car holding this light. He starts yelling at us in Spanish. I turn and yell, fucking run. We take off. Before a good 3 minutes, this man is just spotlighting us running towards the highway watching us. We get to the red light right next to the gas station. At this point, I'm not waiting for the crosswalk signals to turn green for us to run across. I'm hauling ass across the highway, and I genuinely do not care. We get to Pockets, and there's a white wooden fence all the way around the parking lot. In order to get to the doors of the gas station, you would have to walk all the way around to go in. I made all 3 of us jump the fence and run full force into the gas station. There were 2 women working, and they asked if we were okay. I explained to them that there was a man in a black car with tinted windows who had just followed us halfway across town from the football field, and that at any given moment he was going to show up. They tell us to go hide in the women's restroom. I look up, and there he was, pulling in and stopping next to the gas pumps. I tell the ladies, if he gets out of his car and comes in, please call the cops, because I have a pocket tool on me, and I don't want to go to jail if I defend myself. They both agree and told us they'll come get us when he leaves. We sat in the bathroom for 20 minutes before he left. He never got out of his car. We called my ex's mom to pick us up. Ever since that day, we have not went randonauting by walking ever again. The look on that man's face will forever be burned into my mind. His eyes were so dark, so eerie, as if his eyes were literally black and not just dark brown. He looked at us like he wanted to hurt us. To this day, I have yet to see that man or his car ever again, and I've lived here since 2011. I have never encountered something that felt so evil. This took place in Mayfield, Kentucky. I actually haven't read this one on TikTok yet, so you guys are the first to hear it. Hello, my name's Nova. I've seen you on TikTok recently and wanted to send you the story on an experience I had when I was younger. From when I was born until I was about 11 years old, I lived in a house that was in a decently populated area, the typical suburban neighborhood. I lived with my mom, my dad, and my older brother by about a year, and my 3 younger siblings. My mom and me have paranormal experiences, and my family on her side are known to be able to contact spirits, see things other people can't, etc. I believe this has something to do with the fact that my mom's side of the family is Native American. When I was 10, I think, I remember that it had been storming outside a lot. Flooding, thunder, lightning, tornado warnings. We knew that a few ghosts lived in our house. A little girl named Emily that my mom was able to pass over, a tall man who had a very distinct motorcycle helmet, and another man who I don't remember a lot about, but he was around the corner of my room or in my closet a lot. On this specific night, I had been in my bedroom with my dog Sadie. I had been laying on my bed reading a book while she was on the foot of my bed looking out the window. I remember looking up from my book when she let out a small growl, and I saw the man in the corner. He was just standing there and staring at me while pointing towards the window where Sadie had been staring at a spot in the yard. I looked outside to see what she was looking at. I didn't see anything though and decided to keep reading my book. After a bit, Sadie's growling turned into full-blown barking. Hackles raised, ears pinned back, tail between her legs. I get up again and look out the window only to see what she had been barking and growling at. It was a tall person in the center of the yard facing my house, specifically my window. I couldn't see his eyes because of how hard it was raining, but I could see a smile on his face, all teeth and gums. It scared the hell out of me. I heard something behind me and looked around to see the man who had been standing in the corner, now next to my bed. His eyes were wide, almost fully white, as he stared at me. I got a little startled because he had never moved out of the corner or the closet. So when I looked back to my window, the person was standing right outside. I felt really scared, terrified, like if anything happened, I would be dead. I truly feared for my life in that moment. Sadie looked so aggressive, foaming at the mouth and everything. I turned around and ran to my door, banging on it to try and get my parents to open it because they normally lock my door so I didn't cause havoc. My mom eventually came in and I told her everything that had happened. We had cameras in my room and in the front yard, so she let me check them with her. As she was looking at the video, we couldn't see any sign that anyone was out there. But the weirdest thing was, around the time that the whole situation happened, all the cameras were just static. It may have been due to the storm, but I was convinced that it was due to whatever the hell that thing was. Another thing that convinced me was that 2 days later, one of our neighbors was found unalived by homicide. Apparently, he had been there for about a week. Wow. That is crazy. This is Nova, and their username is nova.the.weird0 if you want to, so that they get credit. This one is about a flesh pedestrian. Hello, my name is Chelsea. We're going to name her because she doesn't want her real name on here. And I had a recent experience with an SW that I wanted to share. I just recently started following you and had seen you post on it. I would like my name changed. Yes. Okay, so I live way out in the middle of nowhere in a small town in North Carolina. My home is surrounded by hundreds of acres of woods, and you can't see it from the main road at all. One night I was coming back from my fiance's house. It was around 11 p.m. I have a dirt driveway that's 1.5 miles long, surrounded by trees with zero light. So I'm on the dirt road heading to the house when I see what I thought was my uncle's dog. My uncle lives right where my driveway starts, near the main road. I rolled my window down and I started to call the dog's name. At first he wouldn't come and he just stood there looking at me. It was at this point that I was starting to feel uneasy. I'm very aware of the spiritual world and kind of know what to look for and sense. Anyways, after calling him twice, he slowly started to walk towards me and sat right at the driver's side window and kind of tilted his head and just looked at me. At this point, alarms were going off inside of my head. This was very out of his nature. He usually likes to jump up on the car or even bark. I also noticed that his e-collar was missing, which my uncle would never forget to do. Something didn't seem right with his dog. I just didn't know what. I texted my uncle and told him that his dog was over at my house again. This isn't uncommon, which is why I texted him. I immediately get a response back. This was the creepy part. My uncle had texted me and said that his dog was laying on the bed next to him and even sent a photo. I looked back up for my phone and it was gone. I didn't know where it went or what happened. I sometimes still feel like it's there, which it could be. I haven't encountered whatever it is again, and I hope I never do. Ew. My best friend's demonic house. So my friend has lived in this house for about 5 or 6 years now, and from the first time I went to her house, I kept having an awful feeling of being watched. Every time I go over there, I do. And I had no idea what it was. One day she told me that there is a pentagram carved in her upstairs ceiling, and not only that, but the name Zach. And before I knew of any of this, one night I was sleeping over, and I had a gut feeling of being looked at. And everyone but me was asleep, and then I felt something grab my shoulder. Every time I wake up there, I have scratches all over my legs, and they burn. Her house was built in 1913. I have Googled so much to try to figure out the Zach thing, but nothing. This is the last one from my email, then we're going to go to my TikTok DMs. Hi, I just want to start by saying I love your videos on TikTok, and I do have a paranormal experience I want to share that I cannot wrap my head around. I live in Southern California, and there is a super popular canyon here in my city that people drive on all the time. It's super scenic. My sister and I had driven this canyon so many times and never had any problems. This one night, we drove up from the back end of the canyon and off the main street. We thought we knew how to get up the street that takes you up the scenic way, but once we started driving, we realized we didn't know how to get up there, so we pulled up the directions on Apple Maps and started following them. But further into the drive, we realized we were being taken down into the canyon instead of to the top, which was the wrong way. But we decided to continue anyway. We kept going, and eventually we ended up in an area where there was no more houses, street signs, lights, quite literally any signs of civilization. It was pitch black, and we were just surrounded by trees. We made a turn into a random narrow street with no street markers, and immediately my sister felt a gut feeling that we needed to get the F out of there. Through this whole drive, deep down I knew that we weren't going the right way, and I wanted to tell her we should turn around, but it was like something wasn't letting me talk. My eyes were just locked on the road, and something was telling me to just keep going. No matter what, that what I wanted to find would be up ahead. I've always had experiences with paranormal stuff no matter where I am. My sister, on the other hand, has never experienced anything. I tried reaching for my rosary in my purse during this drive, and it almost felt like I couldn't move at all. Whatever was down there did not want me to have my rosary. I tried to pray as well, but again, I couldn't speak or move. That feeling didn't go away until we were already so far out of the canyon and all the way in the city. We have tried looking that area up on maps, Google Maps, satellite, and we cannot find it. We remember what turns we took and we follow them on the maps and something just doesn't add up. That night I had sleep paralysis and I was horrified. I don't know what explanation there is for what we felt, and we didn't see anything, but it was a feeling of something purely evil. Like something wanted to harm us. We did research on the canyon itself, and there have been murders, a plane crash with almost 30 victims, indigenous communities being slaughtered, KKK and rituals, but still nothing that ties together what we experienced. The canyon is called Turnbull Canyon in Whittier, California. Maybe you can help us figure out what we experienced. I'm going to do some research on that. That's crazy. Okay, this one is actually crazy. This is about my follower's roommate who was possessed, and they've asked to be anonymous because they are afraid that the roommate still lives in that same apartment. So, yeah. I would like to stay anonymous because this happened back in 2020, and I'm sure my roomie still lives there. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona, sharing an apartment with an ex-best friend that I'll call Bob. In late 2019, he had fallen hard and fast for a girl that his cousin introduced him to. Their relationship was intense but short-lived, and when it ended, he took it very bad. Bob fell into a depression, and as the world shut down during the pandemic, his mental state seemed to only get worse. A few months later, he started bringing people over to the apartment from Tinder. I figured that he was trying to find something, maybe a distraction. One woman he brought over, though, triggered every instinct in me. Let's call her Joy. I'm pretty sensitive to energy, and this woman felt void. Almost like she was hollow inside. Her skin was unnaturally pale, her eyes were dark and shifting, and it was as if she knew that I could sense something was wrong with her. She'd glance at me from across the room with intensity that felt deliberate, like she wanted to unsettle me. And every time I'd hear something deep down warning me, don't let her know she scares you. So I'd keep a blank expression and look away, but she kept watching. It almost felt predatory. In hindsight, it feels like I was dealing with something close to a succubus in human form. After that, I'd time my exits to avoid her presence in the apartment, but the energy lingered. I worked 2 jobs back then, one from home, and the other overnight at an assisted living facility. One morning after a night shift, I came home to find the apartment freezing cold. This was a shocking change from the usual summer heat in Phoenix. My first thought was that the AC had somehow malfunctioned, so I checked the thermostat. It was set to 79 and I could hear Bob snoring in his room. But there was a strange, lingering chill, like the stillness that sank into the walls. Having worked in end-of-life care, I knew what it felt like when a person had unalived in the room. It was cold, still absence, and honestly, that's exactly what the apartment felt like. It's almost as if something had unalived and hadn't left. Yet as soon as I entered my bedroom, the coldness lifted. After that morning, things escalated. I started to feel something watching me, always from the same spot, from the corner of the ceiling. One evening I was watching TV in the living room when I felt a strange sensation. It was like someone was standing close behind me, about to whisper in my ear. I could feel the energy near me, but when I glanced over my shoulder, there was nothing. I'd turn my head, but it would vanish. Each time I heard the voice telling me not to show fear, to not acknowledge it. I followed the instinct, but over time the activity in the apartment became harder to ignore. One night I returned from the gym to find every cupboard and drawer in the kitchen open. I brushed it off as Bob being lazy and closed them all, then went to shower. But when I walked back to the kitchen afterward, every door was open again. It was then that I realized that he wasn't even home. Unfortunately, the voice telling me not to react was overridden, and I reacted with a gasp. Okay, this part makes me tear up just thinking about it, so trigger warning, don't listen to this at night. My bedroom had always felt like a safe haven, but that night, the presence breached the boundary. I was in bed when I heard the metal hangers in my closet begin to sway and click together, like a gust of wind had gone through. At first, I assumed it was one of Bob's cats, so I got up to check, but the closet was empty. I closed the door, and as soon as I pulled the covers over my lap, I heard my craft box on the closet shelf sliding and scraping against the wood. I could hear the jingle bells inside, as if something unseen was stirring the box and the speed was increasing, as if it was trying to antagonize me. Something deep inside me snapped and I spoke up. I went from scared shitless to pissed off. I opened my door and said loud and clear, "You are not welcome here. Get the fuck out of my room." And it immediately stopped. The next day, I asked him if he noticed anything strange in the apartment. He casually admitted that he and Joy had been messing around with a Ouija board for a few weeks. They're always high or drunk, and he doesn't even remember if they'd closed the session properly. And he laughed it off, calling it his little demon buddy, saying he was fine with it hanging around. It was the first time that I really noticed how much his appearance had deteriorated. He had lost weight, his eyes were sunken, and his skin had taken a sickly pale color. It was as if his energy was being drained, and I had a feeling that Joy's presence had something to do with it. Later that week, I went to a friend's mom who is a spiritual practitioner. I told her everything, and she warned me that whatever was in the apartment was feeding on negativity and that it might be moving its focus to me, as my roommate's energy was obviously depleting. Following her advice, we got some cleansing supplies like candles, Florida water, and sage and attempted to cleanse the apartment. Big mistake. It was almost immediate. When he came home, everything changed. His demeanor shifted to anger almost instantly, and little things began to set him off. He never had been an angry person before, but all of a sudden, he was exploding over the smallest things, not just with me, but with everyone. He'd scream at his friends over Discord, pick fights with visitors, and every interaction was laced with hostility. When I told my friend's mom, she suggested that the spirit could be retaliating, knowing that we were trying to force it out, and that we need to cleanse the space several times. But the situation had eventually escalated. One night, he cornered me in the kitchen. He was upset over the tone of something I said. I'd never seen him like that, and I was terrified. I packed my things and moved out by the weekend. Since then, I've kept my distance from him, even though I hear through mutual friends that he's not doing well. They say that the breakup changed him, but I think it's his strange attachment to Joy. And while I can't explain all the details without sounding unhinged, I'm certain that what we dealt with was more than just bad vibes. There was something dark and angry in that apartment, and I'm grateful every day that I left it behind. I agree, but I think that the person needs to be cleansed as well, and not just the apartment, and that's why you had an issue. Whew, that was crazy. All right, we'll do one more, and I'll save some for another video if you guys like this one. This is about a mimic or an SW. You be the judge. Me and my mom were cleaning the house when we finished around midnight, so I was getting ready for bed. I heard my mom calling me, and my mom was in the shower, so I just brushed it off. But then I heard it again louder, and I was shocked, so I went to my mom to ask her if she was calling me. She said no. So I went to my room again, and I was Googling it, and it said that it could be an SW. So it says my name again, louder than ever. And then I started hearing knocking on my door. I was so scared that I got under my covers, and it knocked again. I got up, opened my door, and nothing was there. So I just shut it again. It started to say my name over and over again. So I texted my mom, and she was out of the shower, but already asleep. So I was really scared. I laid down and tried to sleep, and the thing said, "Don't sleep." So I got up and I locked my door. When I went and got back in my bed, I started hearing scratches on my door. I finally fell asleep for about 20 minutes. I woke up and I saw the scratches on my door. Later, I asked my mom about it, and she said that she didn't know what it was. And whenever I sit or sleep in my room, I have the feeling that this evil spirit is in my room and that it's very angry. So yeah, that could definitely be an SW or a mimic, or SWs do mimic, but typically, I don't know, it's not often that they're in your home, so I think you have a mimic. Okay, I hope you enjoyed these stories. Let me know if you'd like me to continue the series of reading follower stories to you guys. Hopefully we can get more and more and more and have these long story reading videos. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to stay creepy.